If you're not as consistent as you like to be, and you're scattered in business, if you like to consistently do the right things in order to grow your business, this video is for you, because I'm going to share with you a proven way of going from a scattered to consistent. Well, I'll say insanely consistent. And how do I know? Because I'm going to show you what is the actual science of being consistent. It's not about willpower, it's not about discipline, it's not about pushing hard. No, that is bad productivity or self-development advice. I'm going to go into how to optimize your brain, your mind, and your behavior to consistently do the things you know how to do. And this comes after a conversation with a client who runs an email marketing agency that is thriving sometimes. Because when he is locked in, consistent, doing the right inputs, the business grows. When he's not, the business doesn't make money because he doesn't have a big team yet. So in that sense, what he puts in is what he gets out. And if he's not consistent in putting things in, he falls for this revenue breakthrough that most solopreneurs typically have to self-fund. So how do we go from scattered to insanely consistent in everything that we do? Well, let's first understand how the brain can be thought of as an engine. As you know, every thought, every emotion, every behavior is a result of an electrical impulse flowing through neurons, which is brain cells, right? The more you execute a thought, an emotion, or a behavior, the more well myelinated that specific neural connection is. In other words, the more you've done something, the more prone you become to doing it again. That is the reason why if you consistently have negative thoughts, it's very easy to continue having negative thoughts. If you have addictive behavior, it's very easy to continuously do addictive behaviors, because your brain has been primed for you to do those behaviors or think those thoughts. And peak performance really is the neural rearrangement that facilitates good behaviors. I'll say that again. Elite performers win not because they're more talented, but because they have re-architected their brain through neuroplasticity. So everything that we do in my business really is trigger neuroplasticity through a process called myelination. So in essence, if you understand that the brain is an engine, the goal is to create the right neural connections so that you tend to do them more often, so that you become consistent over time because your brain naturally gravitates toward those activities. Does that make sense? It's not that you conscientiously decide on doing them. That's a lot of work. Ideally, you gravitate toward those things, right? So the first thing to understand is the brain has to become our number one ally to do the right behaviors. And we have to prune, that means remove, the bad neural pathways and solidify, fortify, myelinate the good neural pathways, right? So that's step number one. The brain is an engine and we need to fortify the right connections. Also, the mind, we can think of it also as a battery. There's plenty of research of how our capacity to make decisions is lowered, worsens as the day goes on, because we run out of glucose, which is in essence energy, to consistently process the right information to make a choice on it. And the larger the decision, the more consequential, the bigger the stakes, the more glucose we burn to make that decision. This is the reason why Jeff Bezos, I think he said that he wouldn't do any major decision after 10:30 a.m. because he had mapped out how his ability to think clearly and make the right choices was compromised. So the more choices we make, the worse we become at making choices. What I want you to remember is that if we are operating under the assumption that we have to be deciding all day, every day what to focus on, we are consistently going to be making wrong choices, especially if we do them at the end of the day. And finally, understand that the behavior can be programmed by your environment. So instead of deciding what to do every day, elite performers, they architect their environment in order to be nudged towards doing the things they want to do. There's this nudge theory by Taleb who discusses how small interventions in your environment can shape your decision making. A very basic example of this, let's say that you want to quit drinking alcohol. Well, if you stop buying alcohol and storing alcohol in your house, guess what? You stop drinking at home. If you want to be more consistent, making small choices with where you place your main sources of distraction, for instance, your phone, can have a major effect in your ability to show up consistently and do the work, right? So in order to go from scavenging to consistent, it's not about hard work, discipline, and pushing hard, although those work. It's about architecting your brain, your mind, and your behavior to naturally gravitate towards consistency. In other words, it's by fine-tuning your internal systems for peak performance. This is what makes elite performers really best, because they have a brain that has been architected, designed, rebuilt for peak performance. The right habits, thoughts, and emotions are wired in their brain, so they gravitate towards them. This is the difference between Djokovic or Federer or Nadal, how they're able to keep focus after 5 hours playing the final match in Wimbledon. That can only be done if your brain has been shaped to make the right performance choices when it matters most, even when under extreme pressure. So, re-architecting the brain, making sure that the mind is not wasting capacity on mindless decisions, so we're not deciding on important choices too late during the day, and then we're not wasting time deciding what to do, but rather we're nudging ourselves and doing the right things. Now, if we know this to be true, how do we become insanely consistent? Well, I'm going to be giving you 3 systems that we give our clients. We give them like 70 different protocols and systems and stuff, but I'm going to give you 3 that really have a lot of power in making them way more consistent. The first thing is to map out the 7-day sprint. See, we want to target neuroplasticity. In other words, we want to reshape our brain to learn faster and execute the right behavior faster. We must operate within specific boundaries. We have to create scaffolds for our performance. And I've found for many years that plotting a 7-day sprint in which you do the same things at the same time creates anchors for your brain and mind. So let's say that you decide that the first thing you do every single day is writing that eventually becomes the basis or script of any YouTube video or whatever, right? If you do this every single day at the same time, you help the brain process the information related to that writing and eventually improve your writing skills much faster. If you know you're going to be working 4 hours at the beginning of every day and then you're going to take a longer break, your brain is going to be primed to use that break to encode the information you learn, and so on and so forth. The alternative, what untrained founders do, is that they schedule things without real structure. They have no structure running their lives, and they're reacting to whatever pops into the calendar. If they have a meeting, they go to the meeting. My client wants to talk to them, they want to talk to them. And over time, they have no consistent built-in routine. So that, of course, consistency becomes much harder, and therefore, they fall for the trap of regular roller coaster. Right? So the first thing is have a 7-day sprint, create anchors, ideally same tasks, on the same day, and create a scaffold, boundaries that allow you to also rest and recharge and not only push, because that leads to burnout. Now, that is in a very good way of priming your brain for neuroplasticity. Now, if we want to avoid making unnecessary decisions, and we want to also help the brain really learn much faster, I recommend what I call my ring fencing protocol, which I've lost count of how many people have copied this already. But in essence, is a 90-minute workbook with a timer. We have a video on this that I really recommend you check it out now. But in essence, the ring-fencing protocol, what it allows is enough time for the brain to create the neurological conditions, to secrete the right type of hormones, to trigger a deep state of focus that eventually will help with neuroplasticity, right? Everything that we do is to change our brain for the better. And ring-fencing protocol gives us enough time to conscientiously push the brain in the direction we want it to learn. The alternative is to be paper cut, changing your focus every 3 minutes, multitasking throughout the day, and not really learning anything or doing things with the quality it requires. The goal always is to get better over time. So the ring-fencing protocol is absolutely crucial because it is loaded with flow triggers that help induce also a state of flow, which has an impact in neuroplasticity. What it also does, and this is very important, I typically tell my clients to break their days into ring fencing sessions and try to knock out at least 4 per day, 46-hour days. That is enough. What this does is if you have already committed on doing task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5 in every work block, that prevents you from making a lot of decisions that probably will not yield the outcome you want. You have already pre-decided where are you going to be allocating your time, and you're saving precious mental energy for the things that matter most, right? So 7-day sprint, ring-fencing protocol, and the last thing is design architecture. So what I like to do is map out, and I suggest you do this, map out triggers of behavior. You know already what are the things that you're doing that are not leading you to record months. You know how are you getting distracted? How are you not doing the things you know you need to do? You know how this is happening. And this is happening because there are triggers that are within your environment that are leading you down the wrong pathway. This can be as simple as having your phone with you and getting permanently distracted with notification. This can be working in a space that is too noisy and distracts you. This can be as simple as, working with the wrong people or having the wrong relationships. In other words, there's all sorts of triggers that you already know which ones they are that are leading you through or down a path you don't want to go through. You know that there's behavior that you're doing that is not conducive to the consistency you want that would yield the results you deserve. So what do? First, you map out the bad triggers, then you eliminate the bad triggers, and ideally you create good replacements for those triggers, right? Let's say, for instance, that you realize you're wasting a lot of time on your phone and you cannot really, every time your phone is near, you cannot help but check it out and waste half an hour. So once you realize the phone is a bad trigger for you, you may decide to, stop using the phone. That's not realistic. But then make sure that you download some sort of app like Opal, or you commit on not checking it for the next 4 hours and you put it out of sight and out of mind. That would already yield, that's a good trigger that is going to yield you capacity to at least perform 2 of these, which is going to lead to neuroplasticity. And if you consistently do this on 7-day sprints, you will create anchors that would allow your brain to become more productive and consistent. Now, there's a nuance to this, of course, because the goal is that not that you become robotic. The goal is that you maximize your chances to learn so you can really get more done in 3 months than most people do in a full year. And that is totally able. We prove it with our clients time and time again. And when they tell me, dude, but that means I become a robot, and I don't want to become a robot. I need to be on top of my business. I need to react to what's going on. I need to communicate with my clients. I need to manage my team. And I get it. I also have a team. I also have a lot of clients. But here's how you do it. 80% of your time must be protected, scaffolded. It has to be with clear boundaries that prevent others from derailing your willingness to re-architect your brain for peak performance. And then the rest percent of the time, 20%, this is when you communicate, when you do new stuff, when you let serendipity operate, and you create a little bit of variation. This is, I found, a good mix. How do I do this? Well, I typically start working at 9 a.m. and I work until roughly 2 p.m. Sometimes a bit less. That's it. That's my work day. It's about 5 hours, right? Everything on top of this pertains to the 20%. So I could do other things, I could meet with people, I can be on calls, I can not do anything, it doesn't matter. But the point is that this is the 80% that is perfectly mapped out, that is scaffolded. And in here, I'm learning basically 2 skills. Performance, because that's what I sell. And I need to be the best in the world at this. And then marketing, because I need to learn how to sell it. Boom, that's it. That's it. Performance and marketing is 80% of my day. The rest is leadership, management, and really not doing much, right? Once we implemented these 3 small changes in my client's life, things started picking up rather quickly because he realized, and we helped him really identify high leverage tasks and map out his week. Like, we went way deeper than this, right? But out of respect for our clients, I cannot tell you everything that we do. If you want our one-on-one help, book a call with us. We'll help you become an elite founder rather quickly. But in essence, once we deployed this and other protocols, he started consistently putting in the inputs that yielded consistent business results. It's not about discipline. It's not about pushing hard. It's not about hustle and grind. No, it's about designing the right internal systems for your brain, your mind, and your behavior that will give you what you need. What you need really is to become an elite performer, an elite founder, someone who consistently does what you know you need to do in order to win. That is the difference between failure and success. It's not how hard you work, it's how high your performance is. If you want to dive deeper into our methodology of how we architect the brain and mind of our clients to really win, check this video. I'm sure it'll give you a lot of the answers to the questions. See you in a call.